part 3 of lesson 76, and we're looking at the work of the late great Ben Hogan. And I was explaining earlier on that I did a thesis on Hogan and this DVD, and I was very privileged that the P.G.A. bestowed master professional status on me for the work that went behind the DVD. Now, those of you that know about golf will know one of the greatest teachers of all time was the late great John Jacobs, who absolutely transformed the P.G.A., the European Tour and the Ryder Cup almost single-handed. A great gentleman of the sport, and we only lost him a couple of years ago. And I managed to send him down a copy of the Hogan DVD, and I was delightfully surprised to get a call from Mr. Jacobs himself thanking me for the DVD and telling me about his experience of Carnoustie, where Hogan won the Open. And the way the draw worked at that time, John Jacobs crossed paths with Hogan 2 or 3 times in the week, and went past the wee Iceman, as the Scots called him, or the Hawk, as the Americans came to call him. So Mr. Jacobs played, his career overlapped Hogan's, and I know that the modern fundamentals of golf, Hogan's book, would have had an impact on Mr. Jacobs himself. And Mr. Jacobs went on to write great golf books of his own, one of them being Practical Golf. So we've been looking at the left thumb, and in Mr. Hogan's book he explained to us the angle between the shaft and the forearm meant that we could remove the thumb and the top 3 fingers and support the club. So turning to you now, the parallel left thumb allows the right hand to come on. So I can show you a baseball grip, it looks like that on top. I can show you an overlapping grip, looks the same, and I can show you the interlocking grip. So from this point, whether you use interlocking, overlapping or Varden grip, the basic structure of the hands is the same if we've got a parallel thumb. The danger of interlock is when you interlock deep, you tend to get a bit hand-fisted in the right hand. So if you are going to interlock the little finger with the index finger of the left, we want a shallow interlock. So we don't want a deep interlock, we want a shallow interlock, just like that. And then we get a compromise between the overlapping grip and the interlocking. Now, as a teaching pro for 45 years, it's been a hard sell to recommend the overlapping grip, because the 2 greatest players on the planet, Nicklaus and Woods, both use the interlocking, and who's to sort of contradict them? However, in one of his books, Mr. Nicklaus says if there's one thing he would change about his swing with hindsight, he would have liked to have used the overlapping grip. He just found that the shape of his hands and fingers were too small. If you look at photographs of Nicklaus in the 60s and 70s, he would often suffer a slip of the left thumb. It would burst through the right hand, and there'd actually be a bit of movement at the top. Certainly not the case when Mr. Hogan gripped the club. It was like a vice. That club was going nowhere. So what we find is, from the side, the club leaves the forearm at a certain angle. And because the left thumb is good, the right hand fits it. So whether you're using interlocking, overlapping or baseball, the right palm is designed to fit the left thumb that Mr. Hogan gave us earlier. All right? So it's a physical thing. If you aim the club, lean forward and apply the grip, the happy thing is that the grip will lead you to a good shoulder line. You won't have to worry about where your shoulders are aiming. Of course, if your grip is skewed, then your shoulders are skewed. But if you're skillful, left thumb, right hand. Now this leads us on to some very famous teaching tips, one of which is that you should show 2 or 3 knuckles in the left hand from here. The other thing is that the V's created with the index fingers and the thumb, the V's should point at the right shoulder. Now, again, I don't want to be contradicting Mr. Hogan, he knew what he was doing, but I'd just like to make the point that with ball position, you'll have less knuckles showing and the V's will be pointing differently to a 6-iron and to a wedge. So I would say that visual alignment of knuckles and V's is a bit dangerous because it's subject to the club that you're hitting. What I can tell you is this, that structure is there from driver to 6-iron to wedge. The shaft leans. But what we don't do is go driver, 6-iron wedge and get cupped. Okay? So if we understand that the surgeon has grafted the club into my left thumb bone, my right hand fits, there's driver ball position. I would just shuffle sideways now to change the ball position. In shuffling sideways, in moving the ball position around, the view of the grip changes. So I would like your alignment to be one of muscular alignment rather than visual.